Welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Darion Smith. And Darion, we've got a lot to unpack today, don't we, buddy?
Yeah, man. We got a lot to go over. Excited as always, but before we get into all of it, we gotta tell them about the merch one more time. Yeah, I don't know if they got the memo, man. We need we need these shirts, hoodies, whatever. We
Yes,
need it on out there.
that's a great point. Yeah, guys, if you missed the episode last week when we did our 2022 UAB football offensive preview, we dropped that we are officially selling merch for the podcast. It goes through a site called Store Frontier, but you can actually go to www.storefrontier.com/blazerpod and go there and buy a shirt or a hoodie or a long sleeve shirt. And just that helps not only support us a little bit, but also it also helps spread the word about the podcast. If you're rocking that shirt at a game or at the grocery store, a UAB fan might see that and say, hey, what's the Blazer Victory Podcast? And boom, there you go. It's a perfect chance for you to help spread the word about our podcast. So, yes, definitely, if you have not already, go ahead and go to storefrontier.com/blazerpod and get you a t-shirt or a hoodie today. And again, I will put that link in the show notes to where you can just click on there and go straight to help support us some. But now that we got that out of the way, Darion, yeah. So originally today's show, guys, we were going to do the defense and special teams, but kind of some news broke Sunday morning coming from ESPN, an article by Alex Scarborough about Bill Clark. So what we have decided to do is we're going to dive deep into that, discuss this article, go into some camp updates, talk a little bit about UAB's first scrimmage, and then we'll get into the defense. But next week, we will actually discuss special teams and expectations for the season. But Darion, let's go ahead and talk about this article. So the article, if you guys have not had a chance to read it, it's from ESPN by Alex Scarborough. The title is Why Bill Clark is Walking Away from the UAB Football Program He Helped Revive. And we got to talk about this for a few minutes. So in this article, Alex does state that Bill Clark is not fully 100%, not on board with fully just walking away from coaching altogether. He's leaving that door open to, possibly if he wants to get back into coaching maybe next year. And again, that just is assuming how, if he continues to, rehab very well from his spinal infusion, which so far he has done really well coming off of that fusion. But in the article, one note that I definitely want to bring up is that Bill Clark does say that he is 100% not coming back to UAB to coach. Darion, just what are your quick thoughts about that? Because I know I have a few thoughts that I want to get into about this.
Right. I think this is a matter of perspective, when we look at it. So let's try to unpack it. It was a beautifully written. I encourage anybody to go read it. It was like you said, it was on the ESPN platform. You can go read about it. It's so detailed. I'm glad that Alex was able to really dig deep down into the roots of it, because I didn't know that it came from his freshman, sophomore year. That's when he first tweaked his back, squatting too much weight and trying to push through it. Trying to push in, we all know how it was back in the day. You just try to muscle through anything and be tough, and that kind of backfired on him. And he's basically just been working through this pain all his life, And you get to a point to where, all right, it's time to kind of, if you talk to any coach on this level, they'll tell you about the burnout, no matter how young they are.
Right.
You gotta think, if you got children, you got a wife, it's more than just you. And, it's a coaching carousel. I mean, coaches get hired, they moving across from New York to California to Texas. It's wild. And that's really a podcast topic in itself, just for people to understand that, coaches are actually people with lives. They, that people get emotional, stuff happens. But just the whole hustle and bustle back and forth, I get it. He's 53. He's done well for himself, and they detailed all of that in the ESPN article. It was time to address an issue. I do believe all of what he said was very, very true.
Yes, and just to expound on that, what you just said, Darren, about how coaching is very demanding, just in general, but especially, this last year, with, you got to deal with NIL, you've got to deal with the the transfer portal has always been there to an extent, but now it's just really gotten out of hand where really, you have to on a daily just re-recruit your own players that are on the team. So it is a very demanding profession. Now, granted, hey, they get paid well for it, but it's almost a 24/7 job, that these coaches are having to do nowadays.
Right. And it's not only the coaches having to do it. I want people to understand it's just like you have to have that coach's wife.
Yes.
Basically, she has to be down for the ride, whatever. And the crazy thing about it is you don't know what the ride entails.
Right.
You just signing up. So, I have friends that's in the coaching profession. And it's tough on them. Like when you make these relationships in college, a lot of times you end up knowing the wife of the player. Because you probably all went to parties together. You went to classes together. So they're just as much as your sister. And so your wife and their wife, they always talk, so that's how it is. Like some of my wives talk to some of my friends' wives who happen to be coaches, and just hearing the stories from them coming from their angle, it is eye-opening. You see the stress of all the moving. They have to pick up so much of the pieces, like with the kids. You got schools. Like, let's think from a basic human side of this. Like, you got to appeal to their side. So I know Jennifer, went through a lot with this with him, and I know that she's happy that she's probably for the first time in years get to experience her husband in totality.
Right.
Their grandchildren in, like, this has been all of their lives. So he absolutely deserved that time to address a lingering issue, a chronic issue in his back. And in the article, they detail how many surgeons and physicians that he called out and reached out to get opinion after opinion, but he had to get the spinal fusion. And there's no way around it. He had to do it, and the recovery, up to 6 months, and now this afterwards, this is where you start getting into perspectives, like how you look at the story.
Right.
Because like, as you noted, he did say that, hey, he's going to coach. From my perspective and what I'm reading, I'm like, oh yeah, you only 53, man. You're going to get back out there. You're not gonna, at 53, you're just not going to settle. I can't see that. Like, if you've always been used to going, but he's not coming back to UAB. Let's put that to rest. And I totally understand that, though.
Me too. I do. Like, honestly, hold on. Let me get the exact quote that he gave in the article. Should have had it pulled up. But yeah, you are 100% right. I do not. Yeah. Okay. Here's a quote. Got it right now. So in the article from Alex Scarborough, quote, this is Bill talking. I've done what I need to do there, speaking at UAB. My dream is that our guys there have a great year. That's my dream, because then it stays in the family. So he said 100% in the article he has done, according to him, everything he could do at UAB, which, you go back to the episode we dropped a few weeks ago, Darren, we talked about that, when we kind of brought up the Bill Clark retirement discussion. He's taken UAB to another level. He's got UAB heading into a lot better conference in the American. He has we've got Protective Stadium, a brand new $175 million stadium that, everybody in the city enjoys. He's, kind of done, I guess, in his mind, everything that he could do for this program. And we are going to be forever grateful for Bill Clark and his family, for what he's done for UAB football and, bringing it back, of course, with the return and everything that even going back to 2014, getting that team bowl eligible. But I agree with you. I do think he takes the year off. Which is obviously what he's doing anyway, to, just heal and spend some time with family, with the grandkids, as you just mentioned. But yeah, I see him, coaches want to coach. Every time you talk to a coach, he's forever, he or she is forever a coach. They're always thinking about the sport that they coached. He's going to want to get back in the profession, and, kind of handing the reins off to Bryant Vincent and his coaching staff. I think Bill was, happy with that. He big bowl win last year. He's, been bowl eligible every single year that he's been the head coach at UAB, and he feels that he's handing it off in good hands to Bryant Vincent. And we've got to get to the games in a few weeks. But I mean, you already look at the recruiting momentum that we've discussed and everything going on, all the positives going on the South Side, like right now under Vincent. But yeah, right. I see. Look, for those that don't know, this man, Bill Clark, he had offers to go elsewhere, whether that, and that's in the Power Five, whether that's a coordinator position or whether that's being a G5 coach at another G5. I mean, this man has had offers, even going back to 2014. So this is a very long-winded answer, but I agree with you. I don't see him, sitting around fully retired. Like, he's going to want to get back in the coaching profession in some sort of fashion. And honestly, Darion, I could see, maybe like a Georgia Tech or somewhere like that opening up very soon and them giving Bill a call.
Right. That'll probably be one of the first calls I'll make. He's a free agent at that point, and his track record, it speaks for itself. But that's why I think at that point it gets into a matter of perspective, because the real reason I feel like it could be different reasons, but so my main reasons is he wouldn't want to come back to UAB because you just sit, not your offensive coordinator, but a guy that is a close friend to you.
Yeah.
They are very close. Like, everybody on that coaching staff is pretty close. And I know how he regards BB. So, of course you wouldn't want to come back and be like, and you're disrupting.
I want my job back. Yeah.
I want my job back. But so what he's done is it's a difference between boss and leaders. And what I feel like he did as a leader was you set your people that's with you, that rides with you, you set them up for future success. Right. And so he was able to give Bryant Vincent that opportunity, perfect opportunity. It's set up for him, and I think he feels like, okay, then my time is done. And you don't want to, sometimes as a head coach, if you're at a place for so long, at times that your voice can become kind of stagnant. Sometimes it's good to have a new kind of style of leadership being implemented there. So they're both very different coaches. They both have the same goal. I think they'll reach their goals. But I think Bryant Vincent's style is different, and I think that's what the team was need. That's what was needed at the time,
right?
And I think it was just a good move by both, man. I think Bill was able to establish all of the foundations that was absolutely necessary. I believe that probably he was the only guy that was able to would have been able to do that. Like, he had to work through so much BS just to get us at this level, man. And what he's done is amazing. He's built this foundation plus more. He set his good friend up for tremendous success. And it's a loaded roster, a loaded defense, and we'll get into it.
Definitely. And just one more thing, Bill Clark will always be, one of the GOATs of UAB football. Like, I mean, without this guy, we've said it before, the program would not exist now. It wouldn't be where it is without Bill Clark. So we definitely appreciate everything that he's done for this, not just for the school, but for the city of Birmingham. And honestly, Darion, like, I don't know how you feel, or, we're seeing a mixed reaction about this article, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook, online, wherever. But honestly, man, I'm at peace with it. Like, it's almost like this. I mean, obviously you hate that he had the back issues, and you hate that he had to, it took where he had to get a fusion to be able to get it fixed. But it's almost like with him taking this, or retiring before the season and handing it off to Bryant Vincent, it's almost like both parties can kind of be at peace with it. Like Vincent's taking the reins and Bill's able to kind of step away, and then if hopefully UAB is able to have a successful year like we both think they will this year in the 2022 season, then hey, Bill goes off to somewhere else and everything just moves on, which would be great. And we've talked before, he's still going to get a statue at the stadium one day.
Right. Like he is UAB. Like there's
Right.
no. I want to see him go to a P5. I want to
Me
see him
too.
I want to see him dominate. I want to see him compete for national championships. He deserves that. This is our guy.
Right.
This is our guy. It's like, maybe like a parent or something. That's a weird analogy, but like maybe if you're a parent and you played at a certain college, you played, and then you have a child that decides to go to their rivals. You're not gonna be like, oh, go, when they grow up, they go to the rival school, and you're not gonna be like, oh no, can't cheer. No, you're gonna cheer for the best no matter what. Like,
Right.
and all that to say is family. So if family goes somewhere else, everything he's done for us, there's no ill will. I'll forever be and I think most of the Blazer Nations thinks the same way, but we'll always be forever grateful for him, and we'll always be fans of Bill Clark no matter where he's at. And hopefully, he gets back into it and he's competing for national championships. And I get to brag to all of my friends, say, I told y'all, we was trying to tell y'all like back then that this dude was an awesome coach. Y'all didn't listen. So,
right.
Yeah.
Very well said. Well, all right. Well, let's get into some football discussion. Fall camp has continued. Had our first scrimmage this past Saturday, which we'll get into in a little bit. But let's just kind of talk about fall camp in general. I guess, Darion, I wanted to ask you being a former player, like, obviously, all the players are excited heading into fall camp, but can you kind of just tell the listeners how it is that second and third week of fall camp and how that compares to the first week? Like, is it less exciting for the players, or is it like, what was your experience?
Oh yeah, everybody's all full of oil and vinegar. Everybody's on fire in the beginning because everybody's gonna make this statement that they're this great player and they're gonna win the starting position, and they can just envision. I've been working so hard, in the summer,
Right.
and now I'm gonna show everybody it's my time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the team thinks that. Every single person. Every single person from walk on, it's a freshman walk on. They get on and say, I'm gonna earn this scholarship and I'm gonna prove I'm the best. Like it'll be guys you never heard of that they all have this, and that's the attitude you're supposed to have as a competitor, as an athlete. But by the time when you switching into the second week and going to the third week, after that first scrimmage, and a lot of times reality starts setting in.
Right.
The reality starts setting in, and it can be kind of humbling is the word. It can be very humbling. And then some guys can't take it the right way.
Yeah.
You got to think you might have P5 transfer guys coming over, or you might have a red shirt sophomore, red shirt junior, somebody that's been bidding their time and waiting. And you might have talented 4-star freshmen come over, that's ready. They think they can come in and they can do their thing. Like you have all of these, and then you got guys coming off of recruiting. They get all this attention when they get recruited.
Right.
So you got all of this, and then it's a lot of humbling going on. Some guys don't react to it well. Some guys act out, and it's you're tired, you've been hitting on each other. But then you kind of look at the depth chart. It's how can you admit that, man? Maybe Debo is better than me at running the ball right now. Like,
right.
It's now you're trying to find your role, your purpose. And as a kid, sometimes that's just real hard to come to grips with. That hey, I'm not gonna be getting on the field this year.
Right.
Like, that's what it is. I'm not. It's tough. Like, how do you adjust to that?
Yeah, great point. And well, let's just talk about what we've heard, out of these first couple weeks from fall camp. And Darion, I mean, from what I'm hearing, and we're gonna get into it in a few minutes, but this defense is deep, man. Like
Man,
like you've got these guys. Like for one guy, I want to name Kobe Dempsey. You hear he even had a good scrimmage, and we'll get into that a little bit. But like you hear him popping off, and you're like, dude, this guy, like I don't know if he's gonna get a lot of playing time, but you got to find a way to get him on the field with the way he's been performing on fall camp so far. Like
he's gonna be on the field, trust me.
right, like
He's gonna be out there.
oh,
So
it's
from like I was able to see the scrimmage, and of course you can't say exactly certain things and
right.
formations and blah blah blah. I'm not here to even talk about that. I'm here to talk about how like you said, the depth was crazy. Like on defense especially, like so many guys rotating in and out, all can play. And to me, this is the fastest our defense has ever been.
Wow. See, that's great to hear.
Yeah, our secondary and our linebacker speed is just like they're sideline to sideline, man. These guys are getting after it. So you got guys just, I mean, I've never seen us this deep. It's funny. I was going around, it was a lot of the former players there. I'm going around and I'm talking to certain guys. And, I was talking to Trey Ragland. I was talking to BT and all these different dudes, and I'm just like, they're way better than what we were, huh? Oh, they like, oh yeah, man. They just like, yeah, of course, duh,
Man, hey, you didn't get out there and show them. You didn't get out there and show them how it's done.
Listen, I got 2 plays, and one of them big boys would have knocked me right on my back, man.
Oh no.
But yeah, like man, we have good size, we have amazing speed. Our defensive secondary. Like Will Bowler to me was always more of a hitter than a coverage guy. Man, I don't know what he did this offseason, but he definitely shored up whatever weakness because coverage looked like a strength of his. Like, dude was flying around. Kobe Dempsey was making plays anytime the ball was near his area, and I was standing by Steve Irvine, and we just watching this guy and looking at all of this, and we just like, man, they go 33, they go Kobe Dempsey again. They can't complete a pass on this dude,
Nice.
And they not to mention you got Sterling Thompson, Starling, and you got all of the safeties we have. Like I saw Grayson Cash making plays, the Miller twins out there. You got Jackson Bratton and Noah Wilder, and like it's so many different players that was making plays. I saw some of the red shirt freshmen making plays, like Charles Daniels III. Like,
wow, nice.
Yeah, or Tamarius Brown. He made a couple good plays. I saw Reese Collier, the linebacker, Desean Oliver. Man, there was so many guys on defense everywhere that's making plays. I even saw like our defensive line. It's like they had to get settled in more because I know this off. We should have, but just this off topic. We talking about the defense, but I'm going on record to say we have the best offensive line in conference.
Oh, there's no doubt, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm on record with saying that. So, it was clear to see, like clear. But they had to settle in a little bit more against our offensive line because they was able to gash them a couple times. Our running backs were Skull and Debo didn't even play, but man, AJ Gates, the guy that we keep talking about,
man, yeah,
able
he
to see
good,
him,
didn't
he? Yeah, him and Lee Witherspoon. They look good. Like Zeus Perriman. You know who else looked good? The freshman Tavin Curry, I believe.
Yeah, Tavin Curry. Yeah. That's
he looked good. The dude looked good. I'm like, man, how many running backs we got? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, and last week we didn't even. I don't even think we talked about Curry. And then another guy that UAB put out on their official statement was Lee Beebe. Like, I didn't even. I'm like, who? Who are these people, man?
Me and Steve was like, who is 29? We was like, I was like, how to say his name? And guess what? He ran the ball good. Like,
good.
And I'm looking at these guys. I'm looking at y'all like Lee Beebe out there. I'm looking at Tavin Curry. I'm like, Tavin Curry in my day probably would have been playing. Like, he probably would have been like the second running back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, he can't even really even get into the depth chart right now because we have so many guys. But back to the defense, it's just so much team speed. And if we're gonna get into it, if our D line can really nail down the power element of the game, and I just don't, man, I don't
Hey.
want to overhype us. I really don't. But yeah, I was impressed.
Right. And I mean, hey, and from the official statement, going back to, you discussing Will Bowler earlier. I mean, this guy in coverage, 2 interceptions. I mean, and this is off of one from Zeno and one from Dylan Hopkins. I mean, I guess if you said, like you mentioned earlier, if Bowler had a quote weakness, I mean, I don't think he does, but I mean, if he's already coming out here the first scrimmage and showing how he can coverage and what he's worked on in the offseason, I mean, my goodness, CUSA better look out.
Yeah, so in talking to some of the guys that work with the team, they was just saying how the emphasis, they was like emphasizing like keeping the gains they made over the summer and just really working on speed and explosion, stuff like that. And just a lot of times it doesn't carry over well when they go to camp, but obviously it's been able to carry over with our guys. I love the atmosphere that's there. It was so competitive. I mean, these guys were really treating it like a real game. You see the music, they had the music going, and it was so much energy, guys yelling, and you can feel it. I'm like, man, this is so much different from when I played, when everybody was just trying to kind of survive the scrimmage. Like, yeah, we'll make it through, whatever. How many plays we got. No, like these dudes was out there trying to earn spots and trying to get better. And it was so, like, it got my adrenaline going, just seeing guys praying and just getting amped up, screaming before the scrimmage. It was real competitive juices. It's seeing disappointment when they was coming to the sidelines. You see guys like mad, like really pissed off that something didn't go right. And I'm just like, man, we have the right spirit in here. You don't see that often, no matter what college program you go to. And, just talking to some of the coaches and talking to some of the people, the players, they want to be there.
Right.
Like they really relish in the opportunity to like work out and just talking to some of the former players that's been around, they was just like, yeah, man, like these guys come in pumped up because the program is set up for them to get better. It ain't. Sometimes you go into programs and they just trying to test you mentally, like you in the Marines or something,
Mm-hmm.
But really our program is set up now to where they actually just work on football and improving you as a player and as a student. That's
Right.
it. It's not I'm trying to see how big your courage is, and it's that stuff is like I'm gonna try to break your wheel. It's gonna be so.
Oh yeah.
That is such outdated. I know sometimes we see football movies and that's what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, that is an outdated way of thinking. Can we get better? How can we get better? And
Exactly.
how can we translate that over to the field? And all of that shows guys are bigger, guys are cut up. One thing I used to hate about like watching the Alabama Crimson Tide is like you can help it if you see a guy come in as a freshman about 5 months later, you be like, who is this grown man?
Right.
And it's cool to see that we have that now. I was looking at these dudes, I'm like, dang, this dude got bigger, man. This dude got leaner. Ooh, he's cut up now. And I'm
Hey,
looking
shout
at
out to Kyle. Hey, Strengthzilla, man, he's got those guys ready. Like he
real
is.
deal, man. I got
Mm-hmm.
they look like dudes.
They
Like
do.
they look like guys.
Man, I tell you, but hey, I'm getting excited, hearing all this from you, Darian. And honestly, too, what this just sounds to me is that the team seems to be completely on board with Coach Bryant Vincent and this, culture that he's, already starting to show on the South Side. Like, did you get that feel that the team's just seems to be dialed in and ready to rock under Vincent?
100%.
Good.
100. Brian Vincent seems like a guy that's all about. He's all about the feels. Like
Right.
that's what I call it, the feels, like the feelings. He
Mm-hmm.
understands. I think he knows how to tune. He knows how to tune in with these guys and tap into the human side of players. he listens to him. You can tell that they want to play for him. They want to. And I, as a sometimes as people that's looking on TVs or looking in the stands, we don't understand. All we think about is X's O's and like, oh, why are you just doing this? But
Right.
there's a whole other side to it that's important. And man, I can feel the energy. No one had anything negative to say about Brian Vincent. Everybody wanted to, from the coaches to the players, the former players, they all wanted to play with him. And even with us, with some of the former players, he had us, all of us. It was a lot of us there. All of us introduced ourselves to the current players. All of us, and in the team meeting setting, and he just wanted to establish that link. Like, why is this so important for everybody? And he just wanted everybody to meet each other and get that family atmosphere brewing. He was the one that just decided to do that on a whim. And I just really appreciate him just for doing that for us. He don't know us, but just the way that the environment he's creating for these kids, man, it's so awesome. And it had like I said, it had my adrenaline going. I wanted to give a play or two before I pulled a hamstring, So, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, that's great to hear. And also, too, you mentioned BT earlier. Shout out to, Bryant Turner and David Crane and Landrum Roberts are going to be the new radio guys for WJOX 94.5 FM. So you said earlier you got to talk to BT some. Did you
yeah. Yeah, man, that BT, that's my boy. We used to have battles at practice, and then, as life goes on, he sold me my house out here.
Wow.
Yeah, BT did that, and we was there. And I was like, man, we talked for a while, we was just looking at some of the players and, giving our analysis. And I said, BT, man, I ain't know you was a media dude. He was like, man, I didn't know neither, but he's just relishing in the opportunity. And
right.
I know him and Landrum and David, David, the veteran there. I know that the kind of color analysis is going to be really cool. So I can't wait to hear him.
Yes, definitely can't wait to hear them. And hey, BT, how about, man, I saw a picture of him when they made the announcement. I said, man, that dude is jacked. Like, he
still look like that.
He still like he can go out there right now and play, man.
He probably can. Like, hey, BT, if you're hearing this, let me know when you want to do one-on-ones, man. I can tune you up real quick.
There you go. Nice. Well, all right, man. Well, let's go ahead and get into this 2022 defense preview episode. And let's just kind of talk about, you've got 9 starters coming back on this defense for this year. We've talked a lot. The only lack of experience is up front. And that's lack of starting experience. We've got some guys up front that have played a bunch these last few years, but we really don't have a lot that have started. So let's just kind of talk about this defensive line. Obviously, losing Tyree Turner, losing Moultrie, losing, Justin Thomas, Macario Stanley, losing those guys, it's not good. It hurts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring some dudes back. And I think, last week I thought Jermaine Brown-Skull was going to be the breakout player on the offensive side of the ball this year. I want to say the breakout player on the defensive side of the ball this year is going to be a guy up front, and that's going to be redshirt junior Fish McWilliams. I mean, I think this guy, he's just due, Darion. Like, last year, he played in 12 games last year. He only started a couple. I know he started the Liberty and the FAU game. He might have started another one, but I know at least those two. Like, I mean, he was still – if the other team was running the ball, he was right up there by the running back. He may not have got the tackle, but he was within arm's length of getting that tackle. Like,
right.
I think, and from what I've heard out of camp, I think Fish is ready to step up this year and kind of take that next step. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely saw Fish like in a leadership role. I saw him being the veteran up front. Just he was in the right spots. I like the fact that it was a lot of talking going on during plays. It was a lot of communication. Good. And it'll be a lot going on in the D line, and they were making sure they were lined up right for the first scrimmage, man. And I'm getting right back to Fish, but for the first scrimmage, man, it was like almost hardly any penalties.
That's
Like
good. Hey.
it was so good. Like it was so clean. And I didn't even think about it until afterwards. I'm like, man, they played some real football. Like it was so
Mm-hmm.
clean and because they cared. And even up front, you had all of these new guys, like a Drew Tuazama and but
Yes.
you got guys like Fish McWilliams was making sure that guys was in the right spot every single play. So
Good.
just seeing him and him and like Isaiah Forte and Michael Fairbanks,
Yes.
Kelly Sanders. You had all these guys that's been around and they played in big time moments. They've all made big time plays, and you can tell that they are relishing in this chance to be the guys now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we missed a lot of the experience that's leaving, they did a good job, and they have to go against the best offensive line in conference, in my opinion, every day.
Right.
And iron sharpens iron, you can tell. And our defense does a good job. Like even if they got gashed on a couple run plays here and there, they did a good job of not breaking. You
Good.
know, and it was hard to get points on them. Like they stood stout when it was time to stand stout, and they rotated a lot of guys. And Fish McWilliams was like in the middle of it every time. So I think that he definitely has the chance to be the breakout player on defense on the team this year.
Good. And I mean, you just mentioned these other guys too that I was going to bring up, but senior Isaiah Forte coming back. I mean, this was a guy that played in over 9 games last year, and Kevin Penn. I mean, 6'3", 310 redshirt junior. I mean, this is a guy that I've liked really, since the spring game last year. When I saw him in the spring game, I said, okay, this guy's going to be good. But he played in 6 games last year, had 9 tackles. He should show improvement. But I mean, you just look at the size of these guys up front, with Fish, Forte, Penn, and then, coming in from what I've heard out of fall camp, and UAB has put out a couple releases of updating fall camp, and also, shout out to Steve Irvine, shout out to Evan Dudley. But I've been hearing a lot of good things about Joker Gill, and this is the junior, coming from JUCO route from Mississippi Gulf Coast. Like, were you able to get some eyes on him in the scrimmage that you were? Because I've heard nothing but good things coming from reports about Joker Gill.
So what I liked about guys like Joker Gill and like Tuazama and all of the guys that I think it was is it Tyree Howard, like all of the guys that we got
Yes.
coming over, is that you can tell that they are still getting better and that they are open to receiving that.
Good.
They was open to it. So it's like, and I like it was just like a clear ladder, a clear like a picking order of like, okay, I'm helping you transition into the best version of yourself. Because these guys look like dudes. Tyreek Howard is huge.
Dude,
He's
he's what 350, I think. Like, he's kind of built like Anthony Rush. You remember
he
Rush?
looked exactly like him. He looked
Nice.
exactly like him, but you can still tell like with like Howard and Joker Gill, they still was like working to consistently have the leverage and have
Right.
the violent hands. You can tell that it was still little things that they was like working on and being intentional about. And just talking to the guys, and they just like, yeah, they coming along. And every time they said it about, I remember them saying that about Marino and saying
Yeah.
that about Anthony Rush and saying that about Alex Wright, like talking to Kyle Tatum, like, yeah, man, we getting them coached up, man. Just give me a little time with them, I and every time he said that, like they've always turned out to be gems.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the same things to say about these guys. So it was good to see the motor that they had, even if they probably messed up here and there on little things. You can see that they was open to receiving that the constructive criticism to get better. And
Good.
we're gonna be good up front. We're gonna be good.
Good, great to hear you. I'm glad you brought up Tyreek. Coming from Itawamba Community College. And it looks like on the official UAB roster they list him at 6'6", 348. Golly.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's correct. Like it was funny to see, like, because you'll see like Kyle Harrell who's gotten a lot bigger. Kyle Harrell, was probably 205 pounds, and
Mm-hmm.
he looked like he about 225, 230 now, and he still has that same speed and burst that he had at that smaller size. So just seeing like Kyle Harrell out there and then seeing Tyree Howard right next to him is kind of funny. Like
Yeah.
he's huge. He's a load, man. If he gets that leverage down pack, I don't see how anybody will really be able to move him at all.
No.
So yeah, I'm curious to see his development, and I'm ready to see him on the field.
Definitely love to see it. And we just got through talking about the defensive line with those big guys up front that can help stop the opposing running game. But let's kind of get into these linebackers a little bit. No. Before we get in linebackers, hey, don't sleep on Devin Manigault, too. Redshirt freshman, 6'4", 270. That guy can get in the rotation right away and contribute, I think. So look to hopefully – I don't think he'll get a lot of playing time with the guys in front of the guys we just mentioned earlier, but I definitely see him coming in and making some sort of impact this year.
Right. Like all of those redshirt freshman guys like Devin Manigault and Tamarius Brown type guy. All of those guys was making plays. Like
exactly.
We're very deep. I don't think people understand how deep we're very deep, man. So I wouldn't be surprised if throughout the season that we see some of those younger guys, get more and more time, and they break into that too deep. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, speaking of deep, Darion, let's talk about these linebackers, man. And I want to start kind of with the guys in the middle, the middle linebackers. And according to Bryant Vincent, he says that we are 6 deep just at the middle linebacker position. So let's go ahead and get into these guys. Obviously, it starts with, I think, one of the leaders of the defense, redshirt senior Noah Wilder. This was a guy. We don't need to get into all the stats because everybody knows what a great season he had last year. Conference USA honorable mention, second team CUSA, even in back to 2020 season. Played in all 13 games last year. He led the team in tackles with 93. This guy, he seemed to get better throughout the season last year. And from what I've been hearing is that he is a very vocal leader, so far in camp.
Yeah, he's very vocal. From what I saw, he was one of the main guys, directing traffic out there. Of course, being in that middle. We ain't really even got to talk about Noah. Noah's been here forever. You know what I'm saying? That's
we know what he's about. We know
what he's got. He's gotten. I remember the first year he was just more. When he was playing, he was more so of a downhill tackler guy, and then all of a sudden he became a coverage guy. To be able to see him completely round out his game to where you can trust him on the field to cover or to stop runs, or it's been beautiful to see. He's a complete linebacker, so we ain't got to say too much about him.
Definitely. Well, hey, you mentioned this guy earlier in the scrimmage, Desean Oliver. This redshirt junior, he got in 9 games last year. Got 35 tackles, last year in those 9 games. So already contributed last year. Could you see where he's kind of upped his game so far with the scrimmage you saw?
Yeah, and Steve is correct when he say we're so deep, because a lot of times you'll mess around and see a guy that started so many games like Desean Oliver running with the 2s and 3s. He was running with the 1s, but you'll see him running. It was no ego in none of this. Because when I only noticed it, he was running with the 2s at one time when I heard pow, and it was Desean Oliver that made a play. Yeah. And he got up flexing and talking his noise, So yeah, he looked like Desean Oliver. He was good. He looked like even a more sure tackler. This from what I saw. So yeah, man, he was making his plays. It was super deep at that spot.
Good. And, kind of a third guy that I think is a little proven too is Tyler Taylor, redshirt senior. He played in 9 games last year as well, and actually started 6 games and had 34 tackles. This is a guy, going back to the UTSA game where, he had, I think, 8 tackles in that game. This is another guy that's kind of proven, So really, you look at these 3 guys, you look at Noah Wilder, Desean Oliver, Tyler Taylor. These 3 guys are proven. Now, you've got 3 other guys that, as you just mentioned earlier with it, how deep this linebacker unit is. They're just as good. You look at Renard Ellis, the guy coming in from Georgia Southern, all Sun Belt guy. You look at Jackson Bratton coming from Alabama, who was originally a 4-star recruit. and then you got Reese Collier too, who you just mentioned earlier. So I mean,
right? It was so many guys, and it's like they know how to. David Reeves is doing a good job to DC of making sure all these guys play. Like we
right.
it was so many. I couldn't keep up with it. It was like big substitution packages. If I wanted to tell you the formations or what they was going, I couldn't do it anyway.
Right. No.
Yeah, it was so much going on. Like, man, and that's why I was so impressed that they didn't have any penalties because it required so much communication.
Right.
Because we have so many guys that can play and can contribute. And so we got to find ways to get them on the field at the right time. And I don't even know if starting, I don't even know if like it's such a big deal to these guys because they're all playing. So to see like Jackson Brandon, I thought Jackson was way smaller than what he was. He's not a small guy.
Uh-huh.
And to see him the speed that he has, like to be his size, but I saw him, deflecting passes, running stride for stride with Malik Bryant, and I see him out there. He looks good. Like our linebackers look so legit. I don't want to keep on harping on like, oh, if we have the best in conference, that this was. Hey man, like I don't know what else to tell you. Like if Tyler Taylor gets his hands on, he's a big dude. If he gets his hands on you, you're going down.
Yeah.
I like the fire that our guys compete with, the knowledge that they have, and how clean that they play. This is the cleanest brand of football that I seen. I mean, I know it was just a scrimmage, but even going to the past scrimmages, it was like we've been haunted by yellow flags.
Mm-hmm.
This scrimmage, I know is one scrimmage, but man, everybody was lined up. Nobody doing nothing crazy. It wasn't no over aggressiveness. Like it was clean, good football. And to have all these linebackers going in and out, all of them making plays. I found myself just like looking down at the roster sheet, like, who is this? They all were making plays, like good plays, solid tackle. I'm gonna get you down, on some good players. So I'm excited, man. We're so deep. I'm excited.
Hey, I'm excited just listening to you talk about them, man. I'm telling you, I'm ready to kick it off now.
Right.
Well, let's go ahead and get into these outside linebackers. Now, obviously, hate losing Alex Wright, coming off the edge. One guy that's going to have to just kind of pick up where, Alex Wright left off is, Kelly Sanders, senior coming back. He's going to be back on the outside playing that jack linebacker. I mean, this is a guy that I think can almost do what Alex Wright did last year. When Kelly Sanders got into games, he played in all 13 games last year, had 30 tackles, had a couple sacks. I mean, but when he got in, I felt like, he was always, getting to that backfield just like Alex Wright was, I mean, yeah, there might have been some things, to polish, but I mean, I expect Kelly Sanders to kind of just pick up right where Alex Wright left off.
Yeah, he's made in that mold that we like him.
Yes.
Coming off the edge, he's that 6'5" looking, 245, 250 pound looking guy that has that good blend of speed and size on him. Long arms. It's the same mold that's gotten our guys looks and chances to go to the NFL. He's built in that. He was showing his ability. He got some pressure in the backfield. I do think he can make that leap. He looks like a way more polished player.
Good. That's what you like to hear. You go back to Jordan Smith. You go to Alex Wright last year. I mean, he could be that next guy. Getting drafted. Hey, next year, next April or whenever the draft is. He can get his name called if he just has a great season like we both anticipate him having this year.
I wouldn't be shocked at all, John. Not at all. Like, and like I said, he looks like a guy. He plays like a guy. He has the burst. He has the power and the size. So I can see him just being the next guy up.
There you go. And hey, I know you mentioned this guy earlier. You said he's kind of put on a little more weight to let him be a little stronger. But Kyle Harrell, man, like redshirt senior. I mean, we saw what he did last year, but from what you said earlier, he's put on a little weight, gotten a little bigger, but he's still got that pop coming off the edge. Is that again what you saw and what you were able to see at the scrimmage?
Yes, he still has that explosion that jump off to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud him so much because this is a guy that was a walk-on. Nobody was looking for Kyle Harrell to be one of the guys to depend on, but I saw year after year he just found little roles to get himself on the field.
Yes.
He became one of the main special teams guys. And then he started getting third down opportunities to pass rush and in certain packages. But now I do think he's put on the weight, and I do think he's much more well-rounded to be able to handle those first and second down. He's trustworthy out there.
Right.
I think he's put in the necessary work to get his body to a certain spot where it had to be there. So if you combine the size that he puts on now with the explosion and speed that he got, he can hold up against those big tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Even on run plays because he has the necessary explosion to pop them. Yeah, you probably ain't gonna be able to run a strength battle but you can use if everything combined. He can get it done, and he was showing that out there. He looked good. I mean, it's not just the added weight. It's like muscle.
Right. Yeah. It's not just 20 pounds of fat, but this is like almost pure muscle that he's added.
Pure muscle. You can tell, So I'm excited to see what he does this year. I think he's put in that necessary work to actually have a year where he has impacts on the whole series, just not on third down, just not on 3rd and 11s. And I think we can see him make plays on 1st and 10. So
yes,
I'm excited.
And just a couple more guys I wanted to mention. Darion coming out of the outside linebacker position. Obviously Nakia Eason. Expect good things out of him. He played in every game last year, redshirt junior. And also, you hit on earlier, Michael Fairbanks. This is a guy that also played in all 13 games last year. I think he only started once, but he played in all 13 games and contributed. Had over 25 tackles last year. I mean, this is a guy, I like, at that outside linebacker position, at that jack position coming in. And also, hey, it would be great maybe to put him on the line some, help out those D tackles some, and get him on the inside some. But I expect to see him on the field again this year a lot.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that was on the field a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When we looked at the scrimmage, he was running with the ones a lot.
Good.
Because he's so versatile.
Right.
Like you said, you can move him inside, outside, and just off the field type of guy. He was always like one of those He's one of those culture setters. Mm-hmm. Like, come from a good family, great work ethic, great student, great listener. He's very coachable. You're not gonna get he's probably not the most vocal guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing him, but man, I think he's one of those hard working, just would never get too full of himself. And he's just gonna do the right thing. And so he's been one of those guys for the team for years. And to see his work pay off, and last year to me was really like a breakout year for him to see how he was playing. So to get out there, see him in the scrimmage now, and just see him all over the field, like they can line him up anywhere. He know where to line up. He know what his job is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes him dangerous is like how he plays the game in his head. So I just love giving guys like that their flowers because they're so important to build a program. So you need those type of guys. So I hopefully that Michael can have a big year. I think he deserves it. Just as a person, I think he deserves it.
Good. That's great to hear. And one other guy that I hadn't heard a lot about was Jalen Mayala. He was the guy that came in, transferred from Indiana. He only played in a couple games last year, but I'd like to see him hopefully get in, more than a couple games this year and help contribute. So look to see. I can't wait to see what he does this year in the 2022 season.
Yeah, he's in that same mode, that same Jordan Smith. He's one of them dudes, And I'm like, man, Coach Kyle Stringzilla, he's gonna continue to put that weight on him.
Right.
And he's gonna continue to get bigger. But yeah, he was one of the guys that came up to me like, man, I appreciate y'all just for being here. And he just went out of his way while he was in pads in the middle of drills. just coming over there, just giving us our flowers. I'm like, that says when guys do things like that, it says a lot about their character.
Right.
And yeah, he's another good character guy that's coming in, working hard, coming in from, like you said, from Indiana. And I saw him out there, and I saw him make a couple plays. Sometimes you gotta kind of look because I think he was 22. Kelly Sanders was 2. Sometimes it's like you're
Yeah.
looking at the same guy.
Right.
But I was getting him confused half the time. But yeah, I think
Well,
he's another guy that's going to be in there in the rotation.
good. Well, let's go ahead and talk about these DBs and the defensive backs and the secondary. And let's just start with the cornerbacks. Starling Thomas coming in as a senior. Man, I can't believe this guy's already a senior. But hey, I was very glad to have him back last year. After coming off of the 2020 injury. And played well last year. He started in all 13 games last year, had over 40 tackles, a couple interceptions, key interceptions, and a bunch of pass breakups. I mean, this is a guy, hey, he's the typical lockdown corner that you like to have on your team. May not have the best size, but hey, he's a scrappy player, man, and he's not going to let you get anything easy on him. And I think we, saw great things out of him last year, and I anticipate seeing even great things again the 2022 season coming from Starling Thomas.
Right, and I think he's even gotten faster.
Good, that's good.
Just talking to some of the strength and conditioning guys, they were just talking about how fast he's been running. It's just like how much of a freak athlete. He was on that freak list of college football players. Yeah, like the guy, he looks well put together and he looks faster than what he already was.
Good.
So the DBs was my favorite. The secondary was my favorite part of the scrimmage, just watching them play.
And we had just talked about last week kind of, how much we kind of liked our wide receivers, and we knew how deep the secondary was going to be. But, man, these guys are going to be shutting down a lot of teams, hopefully, this year.
Right, because you look at Star was over there doing his thing. Then you look to the other side, you saw Mac McWilliams.
Yes, love Mac McWilliams.
He's probably the other guy he's probably the only guy that's faster than Star, maybe. I would say to them, they're so fast. They're so fast. So I'm expecting big things like D-Mac out there. It's like, man, you gotta. It's crazy because it's like you gotta find time for guys like Kobe Dempsey and CD Daniels.
Right.
Like them dudes are very good corners. Like it makes no sense to me.
Like they would be starting at a bunch of other programs right now.
Easily. Like I said, going, so I think it was even. I don't even think they wanted to challenge Star and D-Mac too much. I mean, they're proven.
Right.
But just, I saw them take a couple shots. Like at Kobe Dempsey, I saw none shot successful.
Hey.
I saw no shot successful getting thrown. The dude has great closing speed. Like, and he's gonna compete. Like, he's gonna you're not gonna catch the ball. I'm like, man.
Yeah, you love to see. I mean, because this is a guy, going back to Kobe Dempsey, like, he only played special teams last year. And here he is, fall camp he's wowing everybody. Like, you got to find a way to get him on the field. I mean, obviously, you've got Starling and Mac. Like, those guys have locked up their spots, I think. But, I mean, like you just said, CD Daniels, Kobe Dempsey, Devondrick Bynum, and we hadn't talked about him.
Yep, I saw him out there. Yeah, he was making plays. He almost got lost in the shuffle, right?
Oh, man. And then, hey, I wouldn't even sleep on Keon Hanley. I mean, this is a redshirt freshman from Fairfield. I mean, going back, he really popped at the spring game that I was at. Like, he had a couple big plays. Yeah, and then you go to Cy McDaniel, another redshirt freshman coming from Austin, Texas. Like, you've got all your guys, you know your names. You know your Mac McWilliams, Starling, CD, Devondrick Bynum, and then now we're talking about Kobe Dempsey. We're talking about Keon Hanley, Cy McDaniel. I mean, this is a loaded secondary for UAB this year. So you like to see, we just got through talking about the depth for the linebackers and how, maybe we'll see a lot of fresh legs this year and just making rotations. You have to think that you like what you see coming from the secondary this year.
Yes, the secondary as a whole, so just the corners and you moving to the safeties.
Yeah, let's move into those safeties. Yeah, I think we got to start with Bowler.
Yes, yes, man.
So, I mean, this is a guy, who we just said at the top of the show that, obviously had 2 interceptions in the scrimmage. I mean, this guy, it looks like he's, covered in coverage well. Obviously, he's going to pop you. He's going to make sure handed. He's going to make sure tackles. You're not going to get past him. I mean, this is a guy who was second on the team in tackles last year with just 63 tackles behind Noah Wilder. I mean, but you just got to like what you see. Will Bowler, I mean, what else can you say? Like, this guy, he's going to have a big season. And then, hey, you got Grayson Cash, too, at the strong safety. I mean, this is a guy with Cash who was named to the Bronco Nagurski Trophy watch list. And for those that don't know, I mean, that goes to the country's most outstanding defensive player. So, I mean, you got to be, to get your name on that preseason list, like, you got to be
Right.
showing out. So, I mean, hey, I'll take another couple more if he can, 100-yard interception return for touchdowns like he did at the FAU game last year. Hey, if he can do that a couple more times, I'd love it.
He
But
does nothing but just make those cash money clutch plays, no?
cash money, baby, that's all it is.
Yeah, but just seeing Will, like those interceptions, I want people to understand that those interceptions that he called, the reason they're so impressive, these aren't the ones where the safety just kind of almost like he catch a punt return, like this one though, it was one that this dude had to cover sideline to sideline, down the field, run, hustle, jump, make an athletic play. Like he was doing stuff like that all day.
Nice.
So me and Steve looking at each other, I'm like, is it me or is this dude that got way faster? Like he's like going sideline, he's like a ball hawk. Like I remember watching the old Legion of Doom Seattle Seahawks, and they would have they had Earl Thomas, and they had the guy I can't think of his name, but he was the big hitter. He was the safety, and you kind of knew what their job was, but you knew Earl was going to be like this interception playmaking type of guy, and the other safety was going to knock you out. Well, it seems like Will has done a good job of incorporating both into him. Like because we already knew what he was going to do tackling. Right. But I was just so excited and ready to see him play in real games with his coverage. Like that sideline to sideline speed was, that was crazy. It was good to see, and then it's crazy because sometimes you'll see him running with the tools, and you see like,
wow,
you'll see him like Damian Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And Swope, Keandre Swope, he running with it in that star position.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on the field, but it was so many safeties. You saw Jalen Key. First of all, Jalen Key was the most swaggiest guy out there. Like he had on this white leg sleeve with the white, like I was like, man,
okay, hey, okay.
But yeah, but of course you got Cash out there, you got Swopes and in the star, and then you got the Miller twins both going, and I was like, like, and they were running with the one, then Jalen Key was running with them, and you didn't miss a beat. They all made plays. Like,
see, you love to see it. And then too, Xavier Lanier, don't forget about him also.
What number is Xavier Lanier?
Right. I do not know. Let me look it up real quick. I know he's a redshirt junior. He played in 10 games last year. Let me see what number he's rocking this year.
Was he number 11?
8. He's rocking 8 this year.
Oh, number 8. I did see a number. Can you tell me who number? Because I don't got it pulled up. Who was number 11?
Number 11. Let's see.
I wonder. Because
Shropshire's 11 on offense. Hold on.
Yeah, I saw 11 on defense. I was just wondering, it might be like a walk on or like a
Yeah, let me pull up the numbers. Okay, here we go. Damian Miller, yeah.
Okay, that was Damian. Never mind, because I was like, I saw 11 making plays out there. Like, and I forgot what his name was. I looked down while I was looking at the roster sheet while I was there. But yep, he was running around. He looks he's always been fast, but he looks quick, fast. Was making plays left and right. Both of the Miller twins were.
What about Cody Martin? Were you able to see anything on Cody Martin, the guy from Iowa Western?
And what number is he?
He's 18.
I saw him out there. They all look good. Like they all look like they all made plays. I I don't think he popped off as much as some of the other guys because you had to, of course, you got to have the opportunities to be
Right.
able to do that. So I think Kobe Dempsey had a lot of opportunities. He won every match. He won every single matchup. Like, and it was like good contested 1-on-1. And sometimes he was going against some of our top tier receivers. And he won everyone. And then it was good to see this this matchup battle going on. Like Shropshire looked like Shropshire.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got certain guys in space on offense that made plays. Zeno and Dylan look like it's going to be a close. Jacob Zeno is a close battle.
And I know they both threw a pick. Which I mean, but you're going to get that in scrimmages. Like,
yeah, it's a scrimmage, and then they weren't like egregious picks. Those were, I mean, Will Bowler made good plays. Like it wasn't like a pick that you got mad at. Like he was just making good plays, and and then just seeing at tight end, I saw Bryce Davis out there a lot at tight end. I know we didn't even mention him a lot.
Oh, hey, I forgot to mention last week, and I was reminded by a few people that texted me, but I forgot that Terrell McDonald played quarterback in high school. So he's got the hands. Yeah, he played quarterback some. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but yeah, just saying. I didn't know Bryce. I just seen Bryce out there running with the ones a lot. I didn't like that. It wasn't even a guy, but he did everything right. Like he was he was there, and he's not a small guy. He's a big guy. And I saw like Brody Dalton make some plays out there, and it was cool to see how much depth we had. I'm like, a lot of these guys would be starting on the team that I played on, or they'll be at least in the 2 deep. And those were the 3rd, 4th string guys. It was really crazy to see. But like our secondary and our linebackers, man, like you'll see the speed, the depth, the packages. We rotating guys in and out, all can play. It was a really a good sight. I think everybody will be excited about it. It's just the team speed that we have on defense, the competitiveness that we have this year, and from what I've seen so far, not much penalties.
Hey, you love to see that. Or you love to
Right. They were all communicating all on the same page, just playing good, clean football.
Yes.
So I like it. I love it, man.
Good. Well, I know Blazer fans are excited. Guys, we are 2.5 weeks away from the Alabama A&M game, September the 1st. So Blazer fans are just ready for that to come here and get down to Protective to help start the season, and can't wait to see this team speed that we've been hearing about from fall camp and from the scrimmage that Darion was telling us about. Guys, this was our defensive preview. So next week we will come back, give you a special teams preview, and kind of give you our expectations for the 2022 UAB football team. But not just that, we're going to kind of give you our a little overview of what we kind of anticipate happening in Conference USA out of the 2022 season. And just a friendly reminder that there are no divisions this year in Conference USA, that it is only 11 teams. So the top 2 teams at the end of the year will meet up for the Conference USA championship game. But hey, as we mentioned off the top of the show, if you haven't already, go ahead and get you a T-shirt or 2 or a hoodie. And, like I mentioned last week, kind of allow 2 to 3 weeks to get that in. And that's just processing and shipping. But definitely helps support us. And it also helps spread the word about the Blazer Victory podcast. But also, if you're not subscribed to our podcast, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button, whether you're listening to it now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us right now, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. And Darion, you want to close us out, buddy, with your that you made so famous last week?
Hey, everybody, Blazer Nation, let's ride.